Joined now as we are on Thursdays by Rob the Hockey Guy, Rob Williams, the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports vertical. 12 years ago today, buddy, where were you?
I was at a friend's house, watching with a few buddies, probably about 10 of us, and yeah, it was not a good day. Not a good day at all.
Then you spilled out to Georgia and started rioting? Is that what I'm hearing, Rob Williams?
No, we did not. We were in, I guess, the South Granville area, and if they won, I think we were going to go downtown, but they did not. And yeah, I just remember the TV, then switching, after they had the Stanley Cup celebrations, and then switching immediately to the news and saying, "Oh, geez, there's a riot going on in downtown Vancouver," which maybe I was the only one like this. I was like, there is a riot? Like, I could not believe, it was, the thought never even crossed my mind. I know that they had already had a Stanley Cup riot. The thought had not crossed my mind. I was way too consumed with the actual hockey to be even thinking about the possibility of a riot if they didn't win or if they won.
I hadn't even, first of all, I didn't really have time. When you're running a game on deadline, you don't really have time to process what is going on outside the arena. I can remember getting a text from a friend as we were all penned up there, Blake, waiting to get in the Canucks room going, just so you know, outside your city's burning. I can remember Jay Janauer asking Henrik Steen, may have been the first question. There's, cars being smashed and looting and blah, blah, blah going on outside. And Hank gave the most together, composed answer. I mean, that's why he's your captain, right? That he can answer that question in that moment after, just experiencing the biggest professional defeat of his life. It was troubling.
The good news is there were no turncoats on the 2011 team, as you've chronicled, Rob Williams, with your ex-Canucks winning the Stanley Cup. The Canucks donated 0 players to the 2011 Bruins roster, unlike the Rangers, whom they've decorated the Rangers with 6 Stanley Cup champs. They lead the donations, if you will.
So yeah, I stole this article idea from a Sporkle quiz. I don't know if you guys have ever gone to those online quizzes.
Nice muse. Yeah.
Good honesty on you, Rob.
So if you check out my article, I don't reveal all the players' names. So spoiler alert.
You can still do the Sporkle.
I'll reveal a few here, but yeah, you can still play the game. So I counted up how many players have won a Stanley Cup that have also played for the Canucks. So now this could be after they left the Canucks or prior to joining
it could be
the
pre.
Canucks.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
I didn't know pre counted.
So, but I did think it was interesting to note that of all the teams that have won the Stanley Cup, the one with the most players that have played for the Canucks is the 1994 New York Rangers, which have 6 ex-Canucks on it. So, of course, Mark Messier came to the Canucks after winning with the Rangers, but then that also includes Doug Lidster, who played for the Canucks and then went to the Rangers and won the Cup. And then, interestingly enough, there were no ex-Canucks that played on that 2011 Bruins roster, and there have been no Bruins players from that team that have eventually gone on to play for the Canucks. Of course, Jim
until
Benning,
the summer.
Benning is general manager, but yeah, like Milan Lucic, is it going to happen? If it happens, he'll be the first, right? So I do think that that's kind of interesting, where quite different from what ended up happening with the 94 team, where they added guys like Nemchinov and Tikkanen and Joey Kosher ended up playing for that team. So a bunch of guys like that ended up playing. Brian Noonan is another one, ended up playing for the Vancouver Canucks. So we have not seen that with the Bruins. I thought that was a bit of an interesting twist. And of course, that I would say there's 57 players. We've added a 58th now since I've written the article, because of course Ben Hutton lifted the cup. Don't know if he'll get his name on the cup, but he did play for them in the playoffs a couple games and did play for them in the regular season for the Vegas Golden Knights.
Boy, if you're playing in the playoffs, your name should be on the cup.
He played 4 games for them. Well, but that should be enough.
I think you played 1 game in the playoffs, you should be on the cup, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
I mean, you only play a maximum of 28 postseason games, and of course, most teams fall well short of that.
I do
Rob,
think, yeah, sorry, I was going to say, I do think I agree with that point. Like, that's kind of ridiculous to play postseason games with a team and then not get your name on the cup. And Hutton, you have to feel for Hutton. He was their seventh defenseman and only got into 2 games in the playoffs, which really shows like how many teams go through the playoffs with almost no injuries on their back end. There wasn't a single Vegas defenseman that missed more than 1 game in the playoffs.
Rob, I marveled. Phil Kessel played 82 games.
well, that's what he does.
He
plays 82.
He played every single night. He was good enough to get into that Vegas lineup, and in the playoffs, they're like, nah, we're not going to use you. I mean, not a lot of people feel sorry for Phil Kessel, but how are you good enough to play in all 82? And then I think he got 4 in the playoffs as well. Like, it's unbelievable.
Sounds like the coach didn't want to ruin the Iron Man streak, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
3-time Stanley Cup champion, Phil Kessel, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
Rob, we're asking on our Bodog poll question today, what has been the Canucks' most memorable moment since the 2011 Cup final? Now, you feel free to go off the board here. Our options are the bubble playoff run, Luongo and Sedin's going to the Hockey Hall of Fame, the Sedin's farewell game, or John Tortorella versus Bob Hartley.
Torts versus Hart. I remember where I was there. I was in I was at the Keg in Whistler, and we were waiting for a table, and then all of us we were about to go up to the table, and then my buddy goes, he's like, wait, what's going on? And we checked the TV, and then our wives went upstairs to the table, and we were like in the bar area watching the TV for like another 5 minutes. But I think it has to be the Sedin's farewell. I think that's unlike anything we've seen in Canucks history. It was such an amazing moment. A moment that just doesn't happen to the Vancouver Canucks, where you get these, first of all, Hall of Fame players, the first career Canucks that went into the Hall of Fame, and to have a send-off like they got, and to have the sort of the fairy tale finish, scoring in overtime in their last home game, I think was amazing. The bubble playoffs, though, that might rank higher if not for the fact it was in the bubble. Chris Tanev putting him into the playoffs. What a great moment that was with the OT goal. There were some great moments again in that St. Louis series. So maybe that would rank higher, but I'm going to have to go with the Sedin's farewell. Like that, just being in the building for that was unbelievable.
And I think that's the right answer, but I also think people will never forget, as you mentioned, Rob, where they were when they saw Tortorella going after Hartley that night at Rogers Arena.
Now, back 2011, of course, we were all, well, I was at least. Matt wasn't full-time. Where were you full-time in 2011?
Well, the Globe and I was doing the show with BMAC.
Yeah. On that 1040 location on the dial, which
is going to cease to exist here.
Does not exist as we speak. Yeah, Muzak, you got some feedback, as did we, all through the day yesterday.
Yeah, I think I called it Funny FM, but I didn't listen to it very much, but the funny AM funny whatever 1040 whatever they called it. I had a bit of fun looking back at what Bell's president said when they brought in that format. Because of course 2 years ago when TSN 1040 shut down, that's what replaced it. It was already proven highly successful in markets like Hamilton and Calgary with its stand-up comedy content. And of course, the funny format is gone from Vancouver, and it's gone from Calgary and Winnipeg as well. And I think sports fans in Vancouver had some fun saying good riddance to the format there.
I see what you did there.
Stand-up comedy on AM radio.
Yeah.
Sanitized.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
In case people missed it, it was free. It was there was no humans involved in that radio station. That's why they did it.
And that's why I think I felt a little bit more free to make fun of it shutting down in my article. I was thinking about that beforehand. I'm like, did anybody actually work on that? Like, were any people losing their jobs on that station going away? I hope not many, but I don't think so. Of course, the big news of the day was that Edmonton lost its TSN radio station, so they're now without sports radio. And that's an interesting thing to look at now across the country. How many places are without sports radio? And
well, in this country, Rob, the best player, it could be the best team in Canada, with the best player on the planet, is playing in a city that doesn't have all-day sports coverage. I mean, it's bizarre.
Yeah. I mean, I had to wonder. I'm like, if Edmonton beats Vegas in that series, and I think a lot of people thought they were going to, if they beat Vegas, I think they lift the Stanley Cup. And do they? I wonder. Do they make the same? They have the.
Will they have the stones to shut down the station a day after?
Absolutely, we were talking about that as well.
What would they have done? But I mean, it's as you guys know, it's a shifting landscape now, right? And the way people consume sports radio or sports audio is totally different now. I mean, I know for myself, like I might listen to shows that are on sports radio, but I'm rarely listening to it on the radio. I'm listening to it in podcast form. That's what I used to do with your show before you guys even moved to podcasts, right? Like when you guys were on TSN, that's how I listened to Sekeres and Price, and I think a lot of people are doing the same.
Well, thank you for listening.
Yes.
And thank you for the kind words this week in reporting. I believe there's 5 all-sports radio stations left in the country. The one here, the Fan in Calgary, the Fan in Toronto, the TSN station in Ottawa, and the TSN station in Montreal, although there may be a French language.
There's a French language, I believe,
all sports talk as well. So 6 if you're including the French language one. Yeah, it's a dwindling number. Are we done here? Oh, you wanted to promote because the Daily Hive was the only one on this. How did everybody miss this story except for the Daily Hive? Victor Montagliani had some details.
Well, he was at the Board of Trade.
At the Board of Trade. Yeah. And he's got some details about the 2026 World Cup and what Vancouver can expect at BC Place. Explain, Rob.
See, I got access to audio from his keynote speech or interview there from my spies with the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade. I have spies in the room, of course.
Yes, little birds everywhere.
Was it Carm? Was Carm your spy?
It was not Carm.
Was Darcy your spy? Who was your spy?
But I thought it was really interesting that, I mean, he essentially confirmed, I think, some things that we've spoken about before, and that I think connecting the dots with the 2026 FIFA World Cup, expanding its tournament, its first round of matches. There's going to be 24 additional matches being played at the World Cup. Who's getting the matches? And Victor Montagliani, I would think as the FIFA vice president would have a pretty good idea about which way FIFA is leaning. So when he starts talking about, I think this might happen and this and this and that sort of thing, I read into it. And he was speaking about Vancouver getting at least 5 matches, which is, of course makes sense because Canada's hosting 10. But he started talking about like them getting like half a dozen matches, maybe more. And also saying that big teams are going to be coming to Vancouver. So what does that mean? I just think it was interesting to just hear him say it, because I do wonder how many matches Vancouver is going to end up with. And he said that we should find out by about September or October of this year.
I wonder if they guilt trip the organizers a little bit, or the FIFA. The organizers guilt trip FIFA because they're going to spend a lot of money putting grass in, putting a system to make the grass work. At least give us some games here. Give us a lot of games.
Quality or quantity? Or
both, but more quantity than anything else. Give us 8 games at BC Place to make this all worthwhile.
And
I just hope. Go ahead,
I was going to say the other thing about this that I read into is, what Victor's said lately and what he said, just kind of over the years. Of course, Victor Montagliani is from East Vancouver. He is someone that speaks very passionately about soccer in this country, but also he speaks pretty passionately and pretty proudly about his city. And I think he would love nothing more than games to be played in Vancouver rather than Toronto. That's me reading into things.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't have any East Van sources on that
I
one,
mean,
but that's the way I read into it when I hear him speak.
We don't know that they're qualified, but it sounds to me like Vic wants to get the Azzurri playing here in Vancouver.
Maybe.
That's my reading between the lines here, delivering Italy to the Italian community here in Vancouver.
And let's hope no railings fall down.
Well, and I was just going to say, when
building.
they put the grass in, let's hope they fasten all the railings.
Yeah.
At BC Place. What's the fallout there, Rob, from the railing collapsing at Rogers Arena Saturday at the UFC event?
Hey, credit to Grady Sass on the reporting there on the ground at Rogers Arena for the UFC event. I'm not a big UFC guy at all, but I think myself, like a lot of other people that follow the Canucks, thought it was interesting that a little bit more evidence that Rogers Arena is literally falling apart with people falling down off that railing. I'm sure everyone's seen the video now. I thought that I don't know if they're security guards or the staff that were just standing right underneath the railing. I thought they could have been seriously injured from that. Like that looked pretty serious from them. But yeah, there was that happened. There was also a big brawl among fans on the floor seats, which gave us a look at all the Orca Bay seats that still exist. You see a few Orca Bay logos hanging about on the folding chairs.
Yeah.
So I always get a kick out of that. I don't know why, but yeah, it was.
It's been like 10 years, like longer.
More, yeah.
How are there still folding chairs with that logo, for God's sakes? You haven't bought folding chairs since?
Why buy new chairs, Matt? They work perfectly well.
My God.
Sit your ass down.
True. They're heavy, too, those chairs.
Yeah, they are. I mean,
they're well made. Too well, apparently.
Sturdy.
I was going to say, the next wrestling card, there should be a liability situation there. When, by God, someone finds a metal chair under the ring apron. Yeah. Why are they always under the ring apron? They
don't use those ones. It's too heavy.
I don't know if anybody did anybody get. I would like to know who got to sit in the fancy new chairs for the UFC event, like because they're not charging those yet, right? So somebody would have got a extra
wide
seating. Yeah.
Well, like we said Monday, I just hope the governors at Canucks Sports and Entertainment see fit to secure the safety of fans sitting throughout the lower bowl and not just in the new fancy section. Rob Williams, thank you so much for this. You have a great week. We'll catch up next Thursday.
Sounds great.
This Sekeres and Price clip brought to you by
Jason.Mortgage.